Welcome back to boostinmotion, and today I am reviewing this beautiful 2016 ILX, and I want to tell you why this may be one of the best daily drivers to get as a first starter car, used or pre-owned. So let's begin the review. One of the first things I must compliment this ILX on is a lot of its standard equipment. It comes standard with a sunroof, it comes standard with HID headlights, it comes standard with a lot of features that with other comparable brands such as the CLAs or the A3s from Audi, where you would have to pay a little extra more, but Acura does a good job of putting a lot of that into one package for you. Another thing that I want to compliment this car on is its powertrain. Let's think about it. All the Honda guys know 2.4 liter already, but they did something different. They did scrap the 6-speed manual and added a dual clutch 8-speed transmission. But I must say, I love the way this transmission reacts. It's quick shifting. It puts the power down way better than a regular torque converter transmission. So I must commend this car for having a dual clutch. Most manufacturers haven't went this way, especially with a low-end car such as an Acura ILX. Most high-end cars will come with a dual clutch. But for a front-wheel drive to come with a dual clutch, thank you so much, Acura. You're doing an amazing job. Continue with it. Another thing that I like about the car is the interior room and the road noise and how quiet it is. I'm about 6'1" and I am 170 pounds. I have plenty of room to get in and out, and I have plenty of headroom and circumference room. Plus the side, the middle pillar, yes, it sits really high up. The armrest is high for my arm, but when it compared to down here, it's nice and low. So me being the guy that I am, I feel like I have enough room to move around in here and move back and forth, especially for leg room. Another thing that I like about this car is the backup cam, because my daily driver is a Q50, and I've noticed that in this backup cam is way more, it has a fisheye look to it, and it's actually really clear. I really wish that they did add backup sensors to it, and maybe a 360 cam, because compared to the Honda Civics, they have a side mirror camera which actually aids in the blind spot, which helps, but this car doesn't have that option. So I really wish Acura did more involve those things, but otherwise than that, I really love this backup camera. Next, the next thing that I must compliment this car on is its fuel economy. Yes, it's a high revving 2.4 liter, but because of the 8-speed transmission, when you're cruising at about 60-65 miles an hour, the revs are about 1500. So remember, depending on how high the revs are is how much gas you're using. So if you're going 65 miles an hour and it's revving at about 1700 RPM, that's really good. You're saving a lot of fuel, especially for a 4-cylinder motor. So you can probably yield about 40 miles per gallon and really good consistent driving on the highway. Another thing that Acura and Honda does a good job at. Another thing that I like about the car is they make an A-spec model, which have different side valances and mud flaps and rear wing, and they just make the car look more sporty because it has bigger wheels. But one of the disadvantages that I dislike about that is they don't make the A-spec any better than the rest. I believe that they're gonna start making the A-spec. It should be a little bit more powerful, a bump in power, maybe different, even better or different options. Maybe even in the future they can actually have that actual transmission where you have the all-wheel drive split front and back. That would be great. I mean, I know this is an entry-level car and it shouldn't really have an all-wheel drive, but hey, you never know. That could be the one thing that differentiate itself from other comparable cars that it will compete against, such as the CLA or the A3. So that's another cue that maybe Acura should look into. Now, I want to go to some of the stuff that I dislike about the car. One thing I've noticed from driving, when you come to a stop, the transmission seems like it disengages from the motor, such as like what you do in a manual car when you disengage the clutch. But it's a little bit of annoying where it goes, you just feel a little bog, a little bog every now and then when you come to a stop. I mean, you can live with it. It may not be a big issue to many people, but with me, it is a bit annoying compared to regular torque converters that don't really have that type of issue. Another thing that I dislike about the car is there's a middle navigation knob. It does most of the functions for the car, but the one thing I really dislike about it is it should control volume also, and I realize that it doesn't control volume. For it to be like the center knob for everything, I believe it should definitely control the volume of the car. Another thing that I dislike about the car, I must say, is the paddle shifters. Now, the paddle shifters are a cool thing to have when it comes to this high revving motor, but most manufacturers have long paddle shifters that's stable and stuck onto the actual steering wheel stalk itself and don't turn with the actual steering wheel. And I actually dislike that. They're very short and stubby, and when you're turning, they turn with you. Most manufacturers have it to the steering column already, so when you turn, the actual clicker, the actual paddle shifters are very long and tall, so when you turn, you can still click it while turning rather than it turn with you. That's just an annoyance that I found out with it. It's a good key that they have it, but I believe that they didn't execute it really properly. But once again, thank you Acura for trying your best. Another thing that I dislike about the car is it has two screens. The bottom screen is touchscreen and does most of the functions, and the top screen just shows the Navi or any other things that it wants to display. And the top isn't touchscreen. It doesn't really have to be, because it is more farther away from the actual owner or the driver, so you'd have to really reach and use it. But I believe that they could have just maybe integrated it into just one and one only, and it probably would have worked for them. Because when they have the two screens, I don't really see the sense of it. That's just personally what I believe in. Another cue that I dislike about the car, to be honest, is the wheels and tire package that you get stock. Unless you opt to get the A spec, which come with the bigger wheels and smaller tires and thinner tires, which the 17s have the same exact issue, where the stock wheels and those stock tires are very slim and have very low profile tires, so you'll be more prone to bubbles in daily driving, which means blowouts and or punctures to your tire over time, because they use such a small sidewall for this car. Another one of my dislikes for this car is the steering wheel feel. The steering wheel feels really plastic feeling. Most other manufacturers try to give you a good grippy steering wheel. When you want to grab a steering wheel of any luxury or entry-level car, you want to feel it in the steering wheel, because that's what you touch the most. And I realized that compared to the shifter, which also feels very similar, it feels like a baseball. I don't know if you ever bought a cheap imitation baseball, but that's how it feels. It's very hard. You don't really feel any leather. There's not much give in it. It doesn't have that nice feel you would want in a car that you're going to be driving possibly 2 to 3 hours a day, depending on your commute. Because in total, yes, you may lease the car or finance or buy it brand new, but you want to still know that it goes into some of the most comfortable features that you're going to want to spend your every buck for. All in all, I must say, when it comes to this car, I believe as a used or new car and or leased, if you have good credit, this may be a good purchase to actually look into, because you're going to yield good miles per gallon. You're going to get a good motor. You're going to get one of the newest dual clutch 8-speed transmission for a front wheel drive model. You're going to get more standard features in a better price compared to a CLA and or a A3. You're going to get good style and looks from even the upper class TLX, which you'll get in the ILX. And some of these looks seem like it's even derived from the NXX. If you're a big guy or a tall person, this car is going to have good standard features and a good standard amount of room for you, leg space, arm space, just having your own ambiance. And also, it comes with the Honda reliability. You know that you're going to be with a trusted manufacturer that's going to take care of you, and this car is going to take care of you. I must say my experience with this car was really good, and if it had a 6-speed manual, I would probably definitely want to get into this car, but they don't. And to be honest, it needs a bit more aftermarket support. I like to do a little stuff from exhaust to intakes, maybe even a turbocharger maybe in the future. Maybe Honda may decide to put their turbocharged motor in this car in the future, but we will see. But once again, thank you Acura for making this car. This is a good daily driver, and anybody considering into purchasing this car should. Thank you. Have a good day.